Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, some potentially big news this morning that came out a bit earlier than anticipated. And yeah, I'd say about a week earlier than anticipated. And a quick disclaimer that this is apparently a leak. That means that it is not confirmed. I highly doubt Wizards will ever confirm this until they actually want to, which is when they originally planned to announce the new standard bans, because they were talking about making some giant changes in the format. They've already basically said, you know what, we're switching over to a 3-year rotation, which is massive. Let's back up just a little bit really quick. Tabletop Standard has gone down and down and down over the years. Other formats like Commander, Pioneer, Modern have gone up, 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 up. One of the key differences is, well, Standard has a rotating format, which means that, hey, I bought this deck. Cool, I can play it for a little bit. Oh no, it's gone. Basically is how the format works, because new decks come in, new, cards come in, new sets come in, and old sets and cards go out. So, Wizards is trying to reinvigorate Standard, which as a Commander player personally, I've talked about how that can be a very beneficial thing to Commander. A healthy Standard format is probably good for just the health of Magic overall. So, after that announcement, they also announced, hey, we're going to change up the ban cycle, essentially. The way that cards are going to be banned is going to be different moving forward. Again, with this 3-year cycle, we need to change things up. So they're basically going to have like one big, massive ban essentially time in the year during the fall, I believe is what they said. But also just kind of like a quick little emergency panic button like 3 weeks after a set comes out. That is their time to do that. Now, they did say there's one caveat to that is that, hey, on the 29th of May, which is coming up shortly, we are going to be banning some things before, things get kind of crazy and we switch over to this new format kind of entail. That sentence didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Basically, we're going to be switching things up, so we need to start just banning things ahead of time to make sure that we're actually there. And yeah, they said, hey, be patient. We're going to be probably banning a couple things, whatever. But if the leak today is legitimate, my goodness, they went ham. They went ham sandwich because they banned quite a few things. So again, take all this with a grain of salt. That being said, let's get into it. And apparently, again, this was just scrubbed off the internet because Wizards always has like the same cadence for like their website link when it comes to like a ban announcement. And if you know when the ban announcement is coming, and they said it was going to be 5/29, you could then type that in essentially. And then once that website was like live, but not public, I mean, it's like a public site, but it's not like linked to anything, then you could find it. And apparently someone did. And yeah, they put it on Pastebin, and here we go. Standard wedding announcement is banned. And we'll go, I'll put all these cards up individually once we talk about each one individually. Here we go. Wedding announcement is banned. The Wandering Emperor is banned. Invoke Despair is banned. Fabled Mirror Breaker is banned. Raphine Scheming Seer is banned. Atraxa Grand Unifier banned. Reckoner Bankbuster is banned. Plaza of Heroes is banned. So that's, I believe, like 8 cards banned. That is a massive amount of bans, the most we've seen in quite a long time. Perhaps maybe the most at once. I mean, I'm not counting, like, I think like Seat of Synod and like all those artifact lands all got banned at once. So it was like a 5-for-1 kind of thing. Yeah, and I'm sure other cards were banned at that same time. I'm saying, like, just this seems like an absurd amount of cards banned. But again, when they're really trying to shake things up, which they're trying to do, they're trying to get players, maybe from other formats, maybe from, Arena essentially to start going into Tabletop Standard. They got to make some big changes, I guess. And yeah, these apparently were some really big ones they need to make. You may notice that the majority of cards we are banning today are from sets that would have rotated this fall before our announced change to standard rotation. This is intentional because beyond the individual reasons outlined below, many of these cards feel like they have overstayed their welcome and players are ready for a format without the constraints that these cards bring to deck building and gameplay. Taking action on these cards will allow a large number of cards and strategies that were previously suppressed to have their time in the sun and give standard players a fresh, enjoyable format before the release of Wilds of Eldraine this fall. We'll be breaking the banned cards down by color below, starting with black. Now, before we get into that, again, kind of an interesting thing where they talk about, we don't want things to be stale, essentially, right? Players are ready for a format with the constraints that these cards bring to deck building and gameplay. Overstaying their welcome, saying these things essentially. It's kind of interesting because, again, that is kind of the fear of many players out there, that by extending Standard to 3 years in a rotating format, essentially, instead of the 2, things might get stale. Things might overstay their welcome. Players are going to get really tired of certain cards and certain strategies. And so them kind of saying we're banning these things because of that, again, is kind of interesting because you might be having more and more of that over the years because, hey, you kind of change up the way that standard bans are. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying that Wizards, is really trying to shake things up and to try to do things differently because standard tabletop has been failing, and they would like it to not be failing. Let's go through the individual cards. I should already have Invoke Despair up on the screen if I'm editing this properly. Invoke Despair represented an experiment on our part to Punisher style decks in a more competitive space. So represented a relatively recent move towards letting black have some way to deal with enchantments. In this case, the knobs on this card were turned a bit too high, with it being burn, removal, and card advantage in one package. This has resulted in being the default 5 mana play in all black decks, despite lots of other powerful options existing in the format. In order to allow for greater diversity of late game plays in black decks, Invoke Despair is banned. And again, let's just go quickly through Invoke Despair, which I believe I should have up on the screen. Thank you, Future Mitch, for editing this properly. Sorcery for 1, black, 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 black. Very restrictive casting cost. Target opponent sacrifice a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. They repeat this process for an enchantment and a planeswalker. So again, like they mentioned, black in the past hasn't had any ways to deal with enchantments. Now they're starting to get more and more. And this does a lot of things. Again, basically, that's like 6 life loss if they're not sacrificing things, and you're drawing cards as well, and basically remove 3 if they have those things. Yeah, that's interesting. That seems like a pretty powerful effect, and apparently need to be banned. Now, this one, even I, as a non-standard player, have heard of it being somewhat problematic. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It was one of the most played cards in Standard at the recent Pro Tour. March of the Machine. It has been highly played throughout its tenure in Standard and beyond. Fable is another card where the whole is more than the sum of its parts, and yet each part is also very strong. Fable is, I was about to say strange, strong. Fable is a card that generally requires more than one card to reasonably answer, and sometimes much more than that even. It is a card that can win the game by itself when you play multiple copies. It also creates very similar play patterns game after game, which contributes to player fatigue. Fable Mirror Breaker is a saga that, costs 2 and a red, enters the battlefield. You get that first floor counter. Get a 2/2 red Goblin Shaman creature token with whenever this creature attacks, you get a treasure token. Nice. Second one is you may discard up 2 cards if you draw that many cards. Third one is Exile Return Transformed. Flips over to Reflection of Kiki Jiki. 2/2, pay 1, tap, create tokens, copy another target, not legend creature control except as haste. Sacrifice me the next end step. So if you had multiple of these, they could just kind of make copies of themselves, essentially. Or the other one. You know what I mean? Moving on, we've got Raphine, Scheming Seer. One of our goals with these changes is to ensure that while we ban cards from some of the top decks, we're also conscious not to leave outliers that we are already confident will take their place. Raphine is a key part of Esper Legends deck, which, although it has fallen out of favor recently, was previously very successful. Raphine has a similar effect to Fable in that she is difficult to remove cleanly and contributes to repetitive game states and snowball effects very early in the game. We are consciously choosing to depower these legendary base decks so that it would simply replace the black-red decks in the metagame. So kind of like a preemptive ban, not apparently that problematic, but will be, potentially. A 1/4 legendary creature Sphinx Demon for white, blue, black, flying ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X the number of attacking creatures. And conniving again basically means draw a discard. If you discard a non-land card, you get a counter on it for each one you did. So yeah, I can see how that could be a very powerful thing. Apparently not problematic currently, but might eventually be. Moving on to Trax the Grand Unifier. Yeah, this is a fun card, and then one that obviously sees a lot of commander play as well. I guess Raphine does too. Trax the Grand Unifier. Trax is a newer card than most of the ones we are banning today, although her effects on the metagame have already been felt across multiple formats. Trax was intended to be the payoff for playing a dedicated ramp and reanimator strategies. As the format shaken out, it's become clear that the risk involved in ramping into reanimating a Trax is a bit too low, and the reward too great. As additional tools for these strategies enter standard in future sets, as well as improve mana bases to hard cast Trax more easily, we expect that she will be the default top end for many decks, which will likely prove frustrating for players. For this reason, we are choosing to ban Trax now in order to allow for a more diverse range of ramp and reanimator payoffs. That is a giant ramp or reanimator payoff. I mean, this is a disgusting card. I mean, even in Commander, obviously. But yeah, in a standard format, I can imagine if you get this out, that's pretty much game over. Here we go. 7/7 Phyrexian Angel for 3 green, white, blue, black. Flying Vigilance, that's such lifelink, so that's already just a ton. You know, again, a 7/7 with all that. Gross, but of course, the absurd amount of card advantage that you are getting with this is just crazy. Enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library for each card type. You may put a card of that type from unrevealed cards in your hand with the rest of your library in a random order. Of course, that includes artifacts, battles, creatures, enchantments, instants, lands, planeswalkers, and sorceries. So yeah, I think that's what, 8 card types now. So yeah, you have the potential to get 8 cards off the top of your library on top of all this. So yeah, I can see how this could be problematic if there's enough, ramp and enough reanimation to make this possible. Yeah, a preemptive ban on this one is interesting, that's for sure. Moving on, Reckoner Bankbuster was one of the most played cards across all archetypes at Pro Tour Merchant Machine. The requirements for adding Bankbuster to your deck are very low. Yes, because it is colorless, as it can even provide its own method of crewing. There are a number of other colorless cards which fit into a variety of decks that can provide card advantage at slightly less efficient rate than Bankbuster and provide a bit more diversity in terms of their rate of play. It's a 4/4 vehicle 4/2. That has a 3 crew cost. Enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it. By paying 2, you can tap to remove a charge counter from it, draw a card, and then if there are no charge counters on it, you create a treasure token and get a 1/1 pilot. So yeah, you can make something that can crew it essentially. I mean, you need 2 things eventually, but still, good amount of card advantage from it. Yeah, I can see why this one, again, which could be just be an include that you could throw in any deck, could be something that could just be banned. Moving on, this one surprised me quite a bit, but I can tell, based on some of their previous comments, that this wasn't all that surprising after, you read through some of the other ones. Plaza Heroes. Legendary creatures are a very popular part of Magic. One to enable legendary matters archetype and standard, where such a thing is not usually viable. Unfortunately, in this case, we overshot on the mana base. The additional abilities beyond mana fixing on Plaza contribute to frustrating play patterns that have little counterplay. Since legendary decks already get quite a lot of value out of the Kamigawa channel lands, we're choosing to bring down the power level of the mana base a bit here to compensate. Plaza Heroes is a really good card, one that of course is very good in Commander, but apparently also used in standard, again, legendary tribal decks. Legendaries are becoming more and more prevalent in in sets essentially over the past couple of years because Commander has become so popular and Wizards started to focus really heavily on that. So I can see how it's getting a lot of support, and this is a great support card for those. Plus, here is a land that can tap red colors, or you can tap it at 1 mana color, but spend this mana and cast a legendary spell. So if you're playing a legendary spell, perfect mana fixing. And again, if you have a legendary tribal deck, yeah, a lot of your spells are going to be that. Tap at 1 mana of any color on legendary opponent you control, also just nice. 3/3, tap, exile, target legendary creature gains hex or indestructible on a turn. Just another way to protect your thing as well. Yeah, a reason that this card is decently expensive right now. Very popular in Commander, and of course, yeah, apparently in Standard as well. Moving on, here we go. Wedding Announcement. Wedding Announcement is, it says, similarly to Fable, Wedding Announcement provides a large amount of material for a small mana investment is difficult to interact with. We are concerned that after banning Fable, it would not be, if we did not ban Wedding Announcement, then it would effectively take Fable's place in the metagame, which is kind of interesting. This one does interact a bit differently. Jim, at the beginning of your end step, put in invitation counter on Wedding Announcement. If you attack with 2 or more creatures this turn, draw a card. Otherwise, you get a 1/1 white human creature token. Then, if it has 3 more invitation counters on it, transform it. So basically, kind of, again, that card advantage plus, creature token generation. I guess I can see the comparisons. But on the backside, it was something a little different. Wedding Festivity, enchantment, that is just basically an anthem, creature control +1/+1. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, and that's, again, a nice, interesting, preemptive, ban. They're like, okay, we ban this is probably going to get big. They usually play test that out, but again, yeah, we shall see where things really shake out. And then finally, we've got the Wandering Emperor. White's removal suite in Standard is very diverse at this moment. That's not surprising. White gets a lot of removal. The Wandering Emperor puts players in a squeeze between playing around her on one hand and playing around sweeper effects on the other. There are other cards in white and other colors that provide the same squeeze while not also winning the game in one efficient package. In addition, the 2 white cards we are banning today, anticipation that decks featuring these cards would quickly rise in popularity in the context of the other changes to the format. Interesting. And the Wandering Emperor is a legendary planeswalker that has 3 starting loyalty with flash, pay for 2 white. As long as they enter the battlefield this turn, you may activate a loyalty abilities anytime you cast an instant. That's interesting. +1, put a counter up to 1 target creature gains first strike to turn. -1, you make a 2/2 samurai creature token with vigilance. -2, exile target attack creature. You gain 2 life. So yeah, a lot of power right there. Now, they also did have a note, though. Again, these are the 8 cards that are banned. There are some that were not banned, and one is kind of surprising from what I've heard. And also just interesting because, yeah, Shield of the Apocalypse is a $70 card. And I wouldn't put it past Wizards to not ban an expensive card because it is a chase card. And because they might really upset players by being like, oh, you spent what is it? $280 on a playset of this card. It's banned, and then people are really upset that people leave standard. So that could be a reason. Also, yeah, let's see what they had to say about it, though. A note on Shielded Apocalypse and Blood Tithe Harvester. Although Shielded is highly played in black decks at the moment, she is very efficient threat at her mana cost. We are choosing not to take action at her at this time. With the suite of changes we are making today, specifically those aimed at weakening black-red based decks, will mean that Shielded is more easily answered in the absence of her supporting cast. Maybe. We'll see, I guess, because again, Shieldred is just a gross card in many formats, including, Commander and Standard. 4/5 Phyrexian Praetor Death Touch that costs 2 black. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So like Unrolled Dreams and then some. Yeah, a gross card. And again, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I'm saying that they banned all these other cards, and Shieldred is more expensive than all those by far. And again, I wouldn't put it past Wizards to be like, well, we're fine with banning all these, but this is an extreme chase card, and if we ban a $280 play set of Shieldred, players are going to be just a little upset. Blood Tithe Harvester, let's go to that one real quick. Blood Tithe Harvester is a very efficient 2-drop, which is ubiquitous in black-red based decks. Despite its high rate of play, we feel the other changes we are making today will allow Harvester to continue to exist in the format and provide a quality 2-drop for other fringe decks like Vampire Tribal, which may not have the chance to shine until now. 3/2 Vampire for black-red. Enters the battlefield, you get a blood token. Tap, sacrifice. Star creature gets -X, -X. Don't have turbo X. Twice the number of blood tokens you control active on sorcery. So good removal and a good body as well, with some good potential card selection. Yeah, interesting as well. But yeah, not banned apparently, so we'll see what happens with black-red. Anyways, final thoughts. We hope that the changes we have announced today will allow cards and strategies that previously remained underexplored to rise up and take a more prominent place in the metagame, while still allowing for some versions of the existing decks to continue, albeit at a lower power level. We hope that this will provide exciting new environment which players can innovate and compete. So that is quite interesting. Again, Wizards is looking to shake things up, and I guess I should just reiterate now. Again, disclaimer, this has not been confirmed. Wizards, I pretty much can guarantee, will not confirm this until next week when they said that they're going to announce their bans, which is the 29th. Just because it got leaked, again, it doesn't mean that it's real, but also doesn't mean that they're going to confirm it, which I don't think they've really ever confirmed leaks. They're just like, that didn't happen. Don't worry about it. We're announcing it today. Yay, everyone acts surprised, basically is what they're going to be probably saying in about a week. So yeah, it's just interesting. Again, Wizards is really, really going pretty hard trying to actually change things up in Standard because, again, they are trying to attract more players to the environment. They are trying to attract more players to get into Standard from other formats by saying, hey, look, the rotation isn't that bad now. It's just 3 years versus, what it was 2 years. There still is a rotation. You still will lose out on cards, but it's not going to be as bad is kind of how they're kind of approaching it, seems like. And now they're trying to really shake things up so that other sets moving forward in this 3-year window have a chance to start shining instead of just the old cards that have before. But yeah, we shall see. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this. Do you think this is real? Do you think these are the cards that are banned? Do you think that Wizards, if they are, made a mistake on Shieldred or Blood Tithe? Yeah, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, let me know if you don't currently play Standard but are more interested in playing Standard because of these announcements, because of these bans. Yeah, let me know in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.